Hey everybody, welcome to Weber State University's Zoom Career Bites. I'm Brett Merrill. I am with Career Services for Weber State. And we'd like to welcome our Weber State students, alumni, and any guests from other universities or in the community. Zoom Career Bites is a webinar that we kicked off last week and that we will be running through the summer. Each Wednesday from 12 to 12:30, we'll have a business executive that will come and talk to us about a specific job search topic to help us sharpen the saw, to help us get our skills and confidence back up where they need to be so we can go out and prepare and make the right steps to find that perfect job. So this session will run to 12:30, and after that, we'll have 10 to 15 minutes to answer any questions that you might have. Today, we're going to be talking about networking. How do you network your way to a perfect job? How do I develop a personal network? How do I use it? And we're excited to have with us Rachael Child, who will be presenting. Rachael's a human resource professional, has a fantastic HR-focused career. She is an adjunct HR instructor at Weber State University. She's an entrepreneur and business leader. She has her own training and consulting firm, Rachel May Enterprises. She's also a student advisor, has a great connection with her students within the Society of Human Resource Management Club, our SHRM Club. Rachel is a great Weber State alum. She has her bachelor's and her MBA from Weber State University. And she also holds 2 human resource certificates beyond that. So she brings to us a lot of expertise. We're grateful for her wisdom that she's going to share with us. And so, Rachel, let me turn the time over to you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Let me share my screen with you really fast, and we can get started. So, we're going to talk a little bit today about the power of a network. I used to feel that networking was something I didn't know how to do, and I honestly felt it was a little bit like some sort of horrifying singles event where I didn't really know what was expected of me and I was destined to fail and all of that. So my goal today is to make networking a positive word for you and give you some things that you can implement immediately to take some of the stress and uncertainty out of networking for you. So today we're going to talk about what a network is, building your network, the art of asking and then following up. Pretty simple stuff, but we're going to give you hopefully some good tips on that. A lot of the information I'm going to tell you today comes from a book called Never Eat Alone by a man named Keith Ferrazzi. He's world class at networking, and I'll include the title and author again on my last slide if you want to write it down so you can follow up and read his book or listen to it as I did. This individual is the son of a steel worker and a house cleaner, and he networked his way into a Yale degree and a Harvard MBA, so he knows his stuff. So we will get started and we'll talk about that. If any of you are familiar with Dilbert, 1, I'm not a very serious person, but 2, I think this is a lot about how we all feel about networking. So the flat top guy says, would you mind if I network with you to help my career? And the pointy hair guy says, I would have said yes, but you made it feel all weird and creepy. And so the pointy hair guy says, perhaps you could send me an email that I won't read. And the flat top guy says, that makes you my new best friend. That's a lot how networking feels sometimes, but we're going to take that out of it and we'll learn the real currency of networking and know really what a network is and how to use it. So what is networking? It's just interacting with other people. Let's think about it in terms of a computer network, right? So your cell phone and your computer. A computer network is a network that allows electronic devices to operate interactively. So if I have my smartphone and it does not access the internet or it does not access phone calls, how useful is that to me? And how long would I keep that around? But when it's connected to a network, the possibilities are endless. The same thing happens with people. With those connections, and if you know how to leverage them, it is so much more powerful. So the definition of networking, if we give it, actually it's Interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. Simple as that. Knowing the currency means, how do you trade in networking? Keith Ferrazzi says the currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. I feel like the reason some people struggle with networking is because you feel like you're going in and just asking for something, when in reality, to be the best networkers I know are all about being generous, giving of their time, their talents, even money sometimes, depending on the situation. We can talk about that. Always be wise about these things. But the something you must give varies by connection. However, you need to be willing and able to share your expertise and connections to be able to receive from a network, a good network. Ferrazzi calls it career karma. I think that's a legit statement. Let's see, I'm just searching through my notes to make sure I've gotten everything. Ferrazzi he says a network functions because of a mutual need. Thus, it's not about keeping score, but about generosity and reciprocity. So the timing of network building. So if I'm going to build me a network, when do I want to do that? It's kind of an odd question. Similarly, when do you want to build a house? Really, the answer is before you want to live in it, right? So networking is the same way. The best time to build your network is before you really desperately need it. Because the people you're networking with will be able to search out your motives 100%. So it's very valuable to have it in advance. Now, if you're looking for a job right now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't network. It just means you're going to need to build on what you already have generally. What can you offer? So I know sometimes it's hard to realize what you have to offer in any sort of situation. And really, the challenge is just being willing to offer all the time. So many of you are students or graduates. Do you know how people coming behind you, are they facing some of the same challenges you are? Can you eliminate barriers for those people? Is there a person who works in the financial aid office that you just love, that has no errors, that runs through your stuff so quickly? Recommend that to another person who seems to be struggling with something like that. Sharing your contacts with people younger than you, sharing contacts or people with old careers that you've had, or people that you know in business, solving a problem for another person. Ferrazzi uses the example of, say you overhear your coworker complaining that they're trying to find a house and they don't want to get a real estate agent, or they're struggling. You could say, here is a number of a real estate agent I know. You can do that right there on the spot. Or if you feel uncomfortable with that, shoot an email. Hey, I overheard you saying this. This is a person I know, they're great. And both of those people are going to be grateful for that referral. Contributing, volunteering, giving of your time, expertise, and your money when valid and smart. For instance, I have a friend in my network who, she was going on a Dominican Republic mission to build shelters, and I was able to, so I donated a little bit of money to her. What did that do? It strengthened our relationship. Bottom line, it was for a good cause. I knew it was a good cause. So I think it's valuable to recognize that that's also a way to continue to build your network. Sharing news articles and stories relevant to people you know. I found a news article about one of my former professors. He still works at Weber State, Dr. Michael Stevens. He received an award, and the description of the award really made sense to me. So I shot him an email and said, hey, I found this article. Congratulations. You know, completely very well deserved. He was a colleague that I respect, someone I like keeping in touch with, and it was a great opportunity to have a positive interaction. So sending suggestions on improvements to your company, to people, other companies even. You need to be careful with your approach here, especially depending on your title. It is best if you approach people to not put them on the defensive. So if somebody can preserve their pride and hear your message, that's your end goal. So starting with something like, I happen to notice, for instance, I happen to notice that when daylight savings happens, our parking lot lights are on an extra hour. I think it would be a cost savings to the company if we were able to adjust the timing on that, period, right? And you don't want to be like, well, that's stupid. I can't believe they do that, right? Your approach there is super important. And then being willing to ask. We're going to talk a little bit about being willing to be bold and ask. Timing on that is important. Strength of relationship is important, but I have a slide on that, so we'll get to that here shortly. How to build your network. This might seem counterintuitive, but knowing what you want from your network is number one. So knowing your goals. There's no one right way to build a network. It needs to be authentic to you, or people will know. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try something that's uncomfortable or not stretch, but it does mean that if you're better at doing things in writing, then maybe you need to write notes at first, or start conversations with people you're already slightly comfortable with if that's difficult. Be intuitive about yourself as well. You need to identify the people who can be of value to you, or who you can be of value to, or have a reciprocal relationship. So before you start collecting your network, you need to know your goals. What do you want? Is it to get hired at a certain company? If yes, now you can look through your network and see who works there, or who might know somebody who works there. You don't know what you want. Farazi encourages this exercise. Write down what you love doing, what you're really good at doing, and then what you want to accomplish now or in the long run, and what obstacles are stopping you from that. And that can help clarify where you want to go, so you can start to build your network and leverage it in the best fashion. Your network is built as you begin working relationships of trust, respect, and generosity. They can take time, so understand that it's not like you go buy a puzzle and put it together today. It takes time and effort and thoughtfulness, but it's not difficult. So who can help you? Relatives, friends of relatives, relatives of friends. The first job I got out of Weber State was because the father of a friend of mine is still a VP at MarketStar, and he had actually referred me up for a job, so I knew that he saw some potential in me. And so when I applied for my first HR manager role, I mentioned that I knew this individual, and I asked him if I could use him as a referral, and he said yes. And I'm positive that's why I got my job. I'm positive of it. And really, the bottom line was he allowed me to use his name, and I used his name. And really, that's what got me my role. Knowing somebody who works in a company increases your chances of an interview immensely. I don't have an appropriate statistic there, but it's completely true that knowing somebody can help you move forward. Professional and social groups are helpful. Not all networking groups are created equal. Some require more or less of you, but almost all networking groups, I actually have not met one that does not offer a free first visit. And usually you're allowed to introduce yourself and state what you're needing, right? So you can say, hey, my name is Rachael Child. I'm looking for a role in the human resource field in Davis and Weber counties, period. And then after that, those groups are set up to help you. And so they'll typically come up after and say, oh, hey, I know this person. Oh, hey, I haven't seen anything, but if you give me your information, et cetera, et cetera. Say you want to get into the field of human resources, become a member of the Northern Utah Human Resource Association, or just do a Google search, local human resource groups, local engineering groups, local just about anything groups, and you can start to build a network that way. And you know what? You'll probably start seeing people that you know. I know that, well, and that looks like a lot of different networking groups here, this slide. However, I will tell you in my career, I have been involved with all but two, because one of them turned into two different ones, so I never was involved with them. So there are so many out there and so many opportunities to meet people and to work together. Let's see. So current and former colleagues, make sure they're people that you liked working with and you know they liked working with you. No need to get a referral from somebody who does not like you. Be smart about this. People in your religious congregation, I know this is Utah, but that's Farazi's suggestion, not mine. Your former employers and teachers, They're a great resource. People you socialize with, be careful there. Again, be wise. Some of the people you socialize with, you don't want sharing professional information with, or them sharing your personal social information with people you want to professionally connect with, and then people who provide services to you. So for instance, I worked at a company that was FedEx Supply Chain, and when I worked there, one of our temporary employment service people and we enjoyed working together, and I was asked to be a reference for a job for her, things like that. She is an incredible person. I didn't mind at all, but she's definitely someone that we have beyond that working relationship, had a relationship because we had such a good working relationship as she provided services to my company. So that's another resource you have to start building your network. Okay, let's see. So how to ask. Asking is the most difficult part about networking, especially in the early stages of your career, but after a while it becomes more natural, and it never hurts to ask. Farazi calls this the genius of audacity, and he says you need to be audacious enough to ask. He also says that when it comes to asking, you need to be comfortable with the fact that the worst can happen. The absolute worst thing that can happen is they'll tell you no. And guess what? You already don't have what you're asking for, so that changes really nothing for you if you can come to terms with the hit on your pride. It does hurt a little, depending if you're okay with it or not. The relationship with the person is first and foremost. So before you ask, you need to know the person well enough. If your ask will jeopardize the relationship, don't. If you don't already know the person by name and face and they don't know you that way, then you need to communicate them within at least 3 mediums before you make your ask. So I recommend an in-person, social media or email, and a handwritten if you can do that. Be short and specific and willing to reciprocate. Come prepared with how you can be of service to that person. Being as specific as possible. So if you have an ask for somebody who's very high up the food chain, their time is a high commodity, you need to be so specific about what you need. Do not leave it open-ended. So if I say to somebody, hey, I really would like your insight on my job search. All I need is 10 minutes of your time. Would you be able to do that on this day or this day at this time? Be so specific. Let them know what you need from them and give them some sort of time to exit. You can always offer a lunch as well and let them know what you're wanting from that lunch. Not, that they're not going to come and get some strange sales pitch that they weren't expecting. Be completely upfront, and then be willing to reciprocate when you are able, or with whatever you're able. Sometimes that's buying lunch for somebody who's higher up in a company. Sometimes it's showing somebody how you can fit a need that they have. So here's a quick story. I was a volunteer leader through the Ogden-Weber Chamber for a leadership group called Leadership Northern Utah. And we were able to tour McCady Hospital. That day, Dr. Mark Harrison, the new CEO, I think he'd been CEO for about 8 months, happened to be at the hospital, and so they worked it out. So we met with him in the boardroom. Now understand that Intermountain Healthcare is the largest private employer in the state of Utah. And so meeting with Dr. Mark Harrison, it's a big deal. And not only that, him making time for us, also a big deal. So we were allowed to ask him questions. He gave us a quick speech. Very down-to-earth leader. He talked about how he keeps a personal coach who continually shows him how he can improve. He enjoys getting 360-degree surveys. What that means is your equals, your subordinates, and your peers all review you, and the people above you, and then they say, here's where you can improve. He talked about being open to feedback. Just an incredible leader. Well, I was the chairperson of that group, and so I hand wrote him a thank you note, but I admit I had an ulterior motive. If you don't know, Intermountain Healthcare offers supply chain classes, and the fee to attend these like 3 years ago was like in the 10 to 15 grand range. Not only that, it was by invitation only or by their network only. So it was very difficult to get into. And so I wrote him a thank you note, told him what I appreciated about his leadership approach and how grateful I was that he took the time with my leadership group and me. And I left it at that. Then I waited about 2 weeks to make sure he got the note. I was able to I knew somebody who worked at Intermountain, and so they gave me the headquarters address where I could get mail to this individual. Following that, I gave it 2 weeks and I sent him a LinkedIn invite and said, hey, we met at this time. I wanted to, just wanted to see if you'd be willing to connect. He connected, did not respond. And then about a week later, I typed him up in LinkedIn messaging. I've always a bucket list item of mine is attending the supply chain classes that Intermountain offers. And I was wondering if there's a way that a person like me would be able to do that. He responded with like 2 lines and it said, that's very admirable. Please email this person. And they were instructed to give me the employee rate and allow me to enter the class. The audacity of asking can really make things happen. But timing is everything, and making sure that he knew who I was and I wasn't being creepy was also very important. So the following up is so important for your success. If you make a contact and you have a good relationship, the follow-up is so valuable. You want to follow up 12 to 24 hours after you meet. Always express gratitude in the follow-up and include an item unique to the meeting, so in case they forgot you, they remember now. And then keep it short. I recommend, Farazi recommends email and then a handwritten thank you, because email's going to get there actually 12 to 24 hours. I generally do the handwritten thank you and then maybe a LinkedIn invite. It really depends on the situation, and you need to be fairly intuitive about that. But on the whole, you just need to really keep it short, simple, make sure they know it's you, remind them, etc. But the follow-up is going to be key to your success and key to maintaining relationships that are new and not ones that have fallen apart, or excuse me, not ones that you've had for years, right? You don't need to follow up with a professional contact that you meet as much. So let's see. So we're going to go to my LinkedIn page really fast. So do you have to have LinkedIn? No. It's an easy way to find connections. There's job applications and a messaging platform there. I think it's super important and an opportunity to have if you have LinkedIn. It really does make things easier, and I'll show you why. Hang tight. Here's my LinkedIn page. There's me. You want a professional photo on your LinkedIn page. Professional meaning it doesn't look like somebody's face is half cropped out. It doesn't look like you're trying to date the people of LinkedIn. Make sure that you are the only person in it. I know sometimes people are hesitant to have a picture on LinkedIn. Profile with a picture is 22 times more likely to be viewed than one without one. Pictures matter. And you're not dating the people of LinkedIn, so please make it professional. Here is my network page, or my LinkedIn page. If you look at my network, here are all these people who have, I really need to update on this. So I know Kim Ely, actually, this came through just recently, and so I will accept her connection. But the others are people I don't know specifically, and so I need to find out more information about whether or not it will be valuable to connect with them. But down here, you can see that it has suggestions for me, and you can just click connect. They recommend that you don't cold connect with anybody without a personal message. If it's a colleague that you know and you've known for years, click connect, it'll ask, and there's a generic message that says, please be my friend or something on LinkedIn, and you can hit that. But for instance, when I emailed Dr. Mark Harrison, I included something very personal. I did not want to get him just the general message because he was very important, and I did not want to ruin my chances of being able to attend that class. Anyway, let's see. Now, for instance, I know that Workday is an extremely valuable tool in human resources today. So Workday is a human resource information systems software, and it is one of the most powerful and within capabilities and the most strong growing. And I was actually declined a consulting opportunity because I didn't have experience with it. And so being the SHRM representative at Weber State, I wanted to see if I knew anybody at Workday to see if I could get a demonstration for myself and the students of the SHRM Club. So I looked in here and I typed in Workday, and here they are, the computer software company. And right here, it shows me that I know an individual who works for Workday. If I didn't know an individual there, I could click on the people section. And now we have all sorts of people. So say Mr. Well, I'll do this guy because I clicked on him yesterday. Side note, LinkedIn notifies you if people who haven't paid money are looking at your profile. So I don't want Sam to think I'm stalking him. So we're going to move on to Mike Choate, who knows me and will probably wonder why I keep looking at his profile, but that's okay. So here we have a connection, and now we have 27 mutual connections. So if I didn't know this individual, I could click on those connections, and then I could start looking at the people I know. So I know Lisa Williams, and so I could email her and say, hey, Lisa, I noticed that you work with Mike Choate. I'm interviewing for an opportunity at Workday, or I would like to speak with him about maybe having Workday present at Weber State to my SHRM students. Would you mind making that connection? And most often people are completely willing. So it's a great way to find people who work at different places. So even if you don't want to use LinkedIn or want your job history on there, it really is valuable because it's like a database of who works where and who knows who, and you can leverage that to your advantage. Well, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention here. I think that's everything, and I'm out of time, so that's great. Here, let's go back to my slideshow. Hang tight. Okay, so if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. This is my Weber State email. That is my cell phone number. And then the book, the title and the author are right there. Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Great book, practical suggestions, great way to begin networking or dig deeper into it. So that's all.
Great, Rachel. Thank you very much. Rachel, let me feed you a couple of questions that have come through and give us your perspective on them. So one question says, you know, I'm a Weber State student and I don't have a big network right now. Does that mean I have to wait to develop a network before I can go do anything? What do I do?
So my suggestion to you, let's go back a couple slides, is go through this list and write people down. You don't have to have a huge network, but you know people. You might not think you do, but write down, make the list, write down who you know, then write down your goals and see if they connect in any way. I'm positive, and even like your professors, your teachers, if you're a good student and someone who does well and participates, almost always, I have not had a problem with my professors at Weber State ever. They've always been extremely helpful and willing to talk to employers or vouch for me. So you have a network, you just need to examine it more closely.
Great. Let me just add to Rachel's comments on this, and what she had stated earlier is that it's really, networking is kind of a no risk element. You can reach out to someone networking. If they don't respond or give you the time, there's not a negative to it. There's always, networking is always just a plus side. And what you'll be surprised at is the vast majority of people that you reach out to are willing to help you. People are great at reaching back, reaching down, helping pull you up, give you the opportunities within there.
And being open to even say the words, I was wondering if you could help me, People love being helpers. They love feeling like they're serving. So even starting your sentences, I was wondering if you'd be willing to help me. It's a great way to get people to help you.
So great comment, Rachel, because that leads into another follow-up question is, what should I expect from the network? So, you know, one part is that be able to call and say, can you give me a recommendation for a position or a job? But what else? How else can you use the network? How far can I stretch my request or ask?
I think you need to vary that based on the relationship. I have a friend who he was getting his MBA at BYU and really wanted this specific internship. So he looked up and found the people who were recipients of that specific internship. It was with American Express. And he would be doing an internship in New York City, like downtown New York City. He really wanted it. And so he invited one of them to lunch and said, hey, I was wondering if you would have a few minutes. I would love to take you to lunch and learn from you how you got to where you are in your career. And people also enjoy talking about themselves and talking about their successes. And so that's a great way to start that conversation. And then after you hear about that person's story, if that's really what you want, you can say, what would you recommend for me to get to that point? And spoiler alert, he got the internship at American Express likely because of that lunch date, because suddenly he had a personal connection with somebody who worked there. In addition, he now works for LinkedIn and he works in the Empire State Building. It's really cool. I got to tour there once. It was rad. Anyway, so just being willing to ask. Now, make the ask about learning, not about getting. If you make it about learning and not about receiving, he didn't approach the person and say, I want you to get me an internship at American Express. He said, I want to know how you got where you got, and are there things that I could do to also do this? Make sense?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, Rachel, you bring up a really good point. One thing that I talk with a lot of our students on when you're reaching out to people through networking is there's two common things that most people have that links them. Is one, people like to talk about themselves, and two is they're willing to help other people. If there's a good cause, they'll get behind it. But the order that you do it in is key. So if you can, through the networking, as you state, Rachel, if you can get people to talk about themselves, you know, talk about their experience, their career, what has made them successful, people love that. And then you can easily steer it into, can you give me some advice? Can you help me with this? And so the two simple parts to, but just make sure your sequence is first is talk to them about themselves and then lead into the networking discussion.
And then follow up with gratitude.
Yep, absolutely. So another question that's come through is, if I'm networking, is it just limited to LinkedIn and email, or can I request an opportunity to go and meet with them for lunch or meet with them in their office? What should I expect, and what's my latitude? What can I do?
Really, if you're audacious enough to ask, right? But also be respectful of the person in position. What I had to ask of Dr. Mark Harrison was not necessarily something he had control over, but he had control over getting me the right person's name. I probably took 45 seconds of his time, right? I told him specifically what I wanted. So if it's a CEO, tell them, I would probably ask for I would love to have a phone call for 10 minutes. And if that goes well, you can say, would it be possible for me to take you to lunch? If you instigate a lunch invitation, always plan to be the one paying. And then, but yeah, so if it's, depending on how well you know the person, it's always important to make sure that you set a time frame. Can I have an hour of your time? I'll buy you lunch. I would just really like to learn more from you, something to that effect. So really no, I mean, if you're gonna ask them to borrow their car or something, you're gonna need to know that person really well. But on the whole, the sky is the limit, but it's always good to start smaller. And then if it goes well, increasing incrementally.
Great. Rachel, thank you very much. This is awesome.
Welcome.
And Networking is such an important part of that job search process. I've looked at different data, different stats, but usually they come around that says about 75% of jobs that are found in the United States are found through networking. And this may be that you find a job through one of the search engines, but rather than just apply for it in cold, is that you tie that in with networking. You follow up with somebody that works at that organization. You ask for their advice, and then you follow up with thank you is there. But networking to find those jobs, and many of the jobs are not listed out there, but through networking, you may find these undiscovered treasures. So many jobs that are not listed, but the organization is about ready to go fill them, and you can get first in line.
Well, so I have a short story about that. And back to LinkedIn. So I was applying for a role with Goldman Sachs. And so I just searched Goldman Sachs on LinkedIn, and it turns out my husband's cousin worked there. So I messaged him and said, hey, I'm applying for this role. Can you give me any tips? He called me and gave me all sorts of information. He was so willing. And really, I ended up with like 7 interviews with Goldman Sachs, and it all had to do with the fact that I searched in LinkedIn, found out my husband's cousin worked there, and made contact with him. And he was completely willing to help me.
Great example. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for joining us this week. We invite you to come back next week. Same time, Wednesdays, noon to 12:30, follow it up by Q&A. Next week, we'll talk about personal branding. How do you brand yourself? How does that branding help you to be very succinct in answering the questions? And how does that lead to landing that right job? The following week, we'll talk about emotional intelligence. How do you understand your emotions and those of the people that you're interviewing with? And with that understanding, how does that help you to better answer the questions in that job search process? So next Wednesday, 12 to 12:30, we invite you to come and join us. And you guys have a great day. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rachel.